Close Up is brought to you by the Kia Sorento R, redefining the power of Kia.
A report from the Children's Commissioner makes grim reading. Hundreds, yes, hundreds of thousands of our children live below the poverty line. One of the big problems is substandard housing, and the report suggests how to fix it. We're going to come to that shortly. Firstly, here's Matt Chisholm.
We were once known as the quarter-acre Pavlova paradise, but 270,000 Kiwi kids are now living in poverty. Poverty that often stems from poor housing.
We haven't seen significant improvement in living conditions for people. Actually, I think the opposite.
Yes, our houses are of lower quality than most OECD countries. They're frequently overcrowded, uninsulated, cold and damp. A perfect breeding ground for infectious diseases, respiratory illnesses and preventable injuries.
These children are ending up at 10 and 11 years of age with diseases that 70 and 80 and 90-year-old New Zealanders face.
Conditions that are also not good for mental health, social well-being and school performance. And it's our Pacifica and Māori families who are suffering the most. Having larger households and lower incomes, they have a greater dependency on social housing, accommodation that is provided based on assessed financial and social need at subsidised rates. With appropriate, affordable homes in short supply and home ownership now unrealistic for many, an ever-increasing number of families are at the mercy of rental property owners who, with short-term investment gains in mind, may not have their tenants' health and safety at heart.
One of the rooms, the wall was just so damp it was falling apart.
But this is important. Our kids only have one start in life, just one shot at shaping their lives for good.
OK, what can we do about it? Housing Minister Phil Heatley joins us in Wellington, and with me here, one of the report's authors, Professor Philippa Howden-Chapman. Professor Howden-Chapman, you have been, I'll say banging on, because you have been for years and years. You've been going on about this problem with housing.
Yeah.
All right, has this government, for instance, done anything about it?
Well, I think this government's made really good strides under the Warm Up New Zealand Heat Smart program, and it's close to getting over almost 200,000 houses done. But we know that there's another 700,000 homes that have to be done, and there's been a very low take-up by landlords.
Can it be fixed?
It can be fixed, and that's the report looks at things that we can do without much cost, and then goes on to things that will cost more down the track.
And so who's going to pay for it then?
Well, improving housing, just like maintaining infrastructure in general, and we think that housing should be part of the National Infrastructure Plan, pays for itself because it means that children don't go to hospital, they do better at school, they have less days off school, the homes are more energy efficient. So it's good co-benefit. So
just be quite clear about this. Better homes, warmer homes, insulated homes is going to save children from poverty. Reach at least some of the aspects of poverty in terms of education, health, etc.
Yeah, just because you come in a low-income family and a family that's experiencing poverty, you shouldn't have to live in bad housing. OK,
Phil Heatley, you can be the hero here. You can save thousands of New Zealand children from conditions I know that you don't think they should be in. What are you going to do? What can you do?
Oh, well, obviously insulating houses is a good start. It's practical, everyone gets it, and it has an immediate effect. And as has sort of been acknowledged, we're almost all the way through our state housing stock. We've got about 8,000 state houses to insulate. That'll mean all 69,000 state houses will be insulated by the end of next year. Should have been done a decade ago. So sort of getting our own house in order is important. The big issue, of course, is, as Philippa pointed out, even though we're funding private housing to get insulated up to 60% of the cost, only about 15% of the uptake's been by private landlords. Most of it has been for homeowners. So it's encouraging those landlords to take up the government's offer, which is, hey, we'll fund a third or 60% of the cost of insulation.
But if it's going to save those kids, if it's going to cut your health bill and improve your educational outcomes, is it worth upping the subsidy to 100%?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we're doing 230,000 state houses and private houses across New Zealand, and 230,000. I think if your listeners think about that, it is a huge number, and we're doing those 230,000 over 4 years. So by middle of next year, that they will have been done. That's very significant. Our decision next year, really, in next year's budget is: do we continue more funding to get more done, or will we have reached a critical mass where actually people who are buying houses, whether it's their first home or they're buying it for a rental, actually don't accept a house that isn't insulated and won't buy it. So people have to do up their houses, have to insulate because people just expect it.
Is that the answer?
70% of children in poverty live in rental housing, and 50% of that is in the private rental market. As the Minister said, landlords have an opportunity to actually insulate their homes with the 2/3 subsidies, and very few of them have taken it up. And I was very interested to see the Prime Minister in the paper saying, if the carrot doesn't work, we'll have to use the stick. And we think that there has been market failure there, and I agree with the Prime Minister. I think it's time for a warrant of fitness, so that just as you get a warrant of fitness for your car, you get it on your house.
Yeah, Phil Heatley, can I just tick you off on a couple of these, get you to tick off a couple of these suggestions. Now, the warrant of fitness for rental properties, you in favour of that? That's a cheap option.
Well, the Prime Minister hasn't said he agrees to the warrant of fitness. What he said is, look, it's something we do need to talk about next year when we consider the budget, because, as Philippa said, look, we've had 25,000 landlords across the country take up the scheme, but most haven't. Why is that? So we've offered the carrot. The question is, what would the stick be if we decided to do a combination of both? And I think there is an opportunity to do that.
Are you willing to use a stick?
Well, we want to see the houses insulated. I mean, clearly we're putting taxpayers' funds up to see rental properties insulated. So there's a definite will by the government and others to do it. The question is, why aren't most? And I think it might require something like that. Now, we'd want to be a bit cautious. We don't want to drive landlords out of the market because they provide housing for a whole bunch of people. So that, it's a difficult balance.
OK, look, we have run out of time, but word has it you have a bit of influence in Cabinet. You punch above your weight. You can take some of these things back there. Are you willing to do it?
Yes, no, absolutely. We'll be looking at the rolling out the ECA scheme, whether we continue it after next year. If we do, I think, and the Prime Minister thinks, we've had a private conversation, that we do want to focus on the private rental sector, particularly for low-income earners. So, look, those are decisions we're yet to make, and I'll report back to you.
Good.
Mark.
Well, we'll keep an eye on it. We'd love to hear back from you, Phil Heatley, Housing Minister, and Philippa Houghton-Chapman. You're right, he does have the ear of the Prime Minister. Thank you both for joining us tonight.
Thank you.